Knock it off. The top line here is that Mr. Woodward has already filed the appeal in this case. This is a case of first impressions that I have said from day one is destined for the Supreme Court.
Another day for justice. One of Donald Trump's co-conspirators and a former top advisor, Peter Navarro, was sentenced to jail on Thursday. He tried to get out of serving any jail time after he was convicted of contempt of Congress over the summer for refusing to show up in response to a January 6th committee subpoena. Of course, Navarro was involved in the Green Bay sweep plan, as he referred to it, to try to get state legislatures to overthrow the results of a free and fair election. And then when subpoenaed by the January 6th committee, refused to show and then claimed that there was some retroactive executive privilege that he claims that he thought that he was asserting or had the right to assert over the summer. The jury ain't buying that, and they very quickly found Navarro guilty of the contempt of Congress charges. Navarro ultimately was sentenced to 4 months. That's the same amount of time that Steve Bannon was sentenced to, and Steve Bannon is appealing that, and Navarro immediately filed a notice of appeal. Judge Amit Mehta told Navarro, the federal judge who presided over the case and who handed out the sentencing, says, "It takes real chutzpah for you to assert and claim that you are accepting responsibility for your actions, but then also suggesting that your prosecution was politically motivated. Mr. Navarro, you are not a victim. You are not the object of political prosecution or political persecution. These are circumstances of your own making, Mr. Navarro." I want to talk more about what went down in court, but I want to share for you when Navarro went outside after the sentencing to try to speak. A group of protesters showed up. I wouldn't even call them protesters. I'd probably call them kind of pro-democracy supporters, knowing that Navarro was going to spew propaganda and radical MAGA extremist talking points and basically say things outside of the court that he doesn't even say inside the court to kind of fuel all of the MAGA deranged conspiracies. This group of people basically shouted him down and wouldn't really allow him to spread his propaganda. So here's what took place outside of the courthouse after Navarro was sentenced. Play this clip.
So what I'm going to do is say a few words, and I'm going to have several of these fine attorneys behind me say a few words. But the top line here is that... knock it off. The top line here is that Mr. Woodward has already filed the appeal in this case. This is a case of first impressions that I have said from day one is destined for the Supreme Court. It is a case that really asks the important question of whether a senior White House aide and alter ego of the president can be compelled to testify by Congress. And this is where we're at. Unfortunately, the opposition behind us won't let this be heard, but we're going to do our best here.
And then Navarro's lawyers, who are actually the same lawyers who are representing Trump's co-defendants in the Mar-a-Lago document case, they then said that, oh, look at a bunch of communists here. If you don't want to spread deranged MAGA conspiracy theories, that makes you a communist, apparently now. I mean, or communist, fascist, Marxist, whatever these MAGAs want to call them. So here's what happened. Let's play this clip.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
If these commies behind us are going to keep on banging around so you can't have a straight thought or be able to answer a question
I'm trying.
with some thought,
These cameras
you should
actually,
go ahead and
these cameras actually pick it up. I'll take them.
Just really quickly, so the House January 6th election committee is accused of deleting more than 100 files, encrypted files in connection with the January 6th. Are you concerned that any of these files might have some exculpatory evidence here?
I have no comment. This issue is simply about the constitutional separation of powers, executive privilege, and the integrity of presidential decision-making. And this is a principle that goes back to the days of George Washington. So anyway, write your stories well. I appreciate it. I've got a big fight ahead of me. I've got great folks behind me. DefendPeter.com. Please, DefendPeter.com. Help me raise the money in order to fight this battle. Thank you.
Going back to what was happening inside the courtroom before that, so Navarro's defense lawyers, this is how they try to build sympathy with the judge. I kid you not. Hat tip to Scott McFarlane, who was in the court, great reporter from CBS, live tweeting what was going on. So Navarro's lawyer said, our politics are divisive right now. We're seeing that in every poll, in every primary. There have only been 2. We don't have to punish Dr. Navarro because of that. Punishing Dr. Navarro won't fix or change that. Dr. Navarro wants to talk to you about who he is as a person, but he's not going to do so on our advice. He need not be punished to prove a point. They went on to say that Navarro, quote, played an instrumental role in the travel ban that was authorized during the COVID pandemic. Attorneys said that Navarro assisted in plans for building facilities for COVID masks and helped expedite antibody treatments. Just to tell you what they say in court versus what they say outside of court, while you have Navarro and all the MAGA Republicans spread unhinged conspiracies about COVID outside the court, in the court, their argument for leniency is that Navarro risked his life during COVID by working in the White House every single day, is what they said. Then Navarro walked up to the podium, thanks his attorneys, he thanks the judge, and he goes, I'm up here, they don't want me up here. And then Navarro decides that he is going to speak. Oh, what a shocker, big surprise. The MAGAs love to whine and they love creating drama. He goes, when I received the congressional subpoenas, I had an honest belief that the privilege had been invoked. Nobody in my position should be put in a conflict between the legislative branch and the executive branch, Navarro told the judge. You have provided a roadmap to any future senior White House advisor facing a similar circumstance. I'm not the only first ever charged with this. I'm the last. I didn't know what to do, sir. Navarro goes on to say, I'm disappointed with the process that a jury convicted me, and I couldn't present a defense. And there he's claiming about being limited to the advice, not being able to put an advice of counsel defense. And then Judge Amit Mehta says, you are not foreclosed from presenting a defense because of me, Judge Amit Mehta said. Navarro said, I don't want to bring politics into this, but the minute that violence erupted on Capitol Hill was one of the worst days of my life. It was an end to rational discussions on the Electoral Count Act. And then Navarro told Judge Mehta, do you have any questions for me? And the judge says, I don't. Mr. Mr. Navarro. Oh, nice little Freudian slip there. Then a 10-minute recess was taken. And then Judge Amit Mehta took the bench and sentenced Navarro and said, I want to emphasize how serious this matter is, and there are parallels between Bannon and Navarro's cases, but Navarro's claim of executive privilege perhaps has more credibility than Bannon's argument. At least Navarro was holding some sort of position. But the judge then references the Green Bay sweep to try to overthrow the results of the free and fair election. And although the case is not about that, the judge said, Navarro, you went on to talk about your Green Bay sweep on all the media. You did interviews after interviews, but then you refused to speak before the January 6th committee. And I find it hard to believe that you're showing remorse when you call the January 6th Select Committee a kangaroo committee. And Mr. Navarro, your claim about suffering from a two-tier justice system, there may be a two-tier justice system in other contexts, but right now, Mr. Navarro, what you're going through, this ain't it. Judge Mehta went on to say, I believe you thought you had a duty to invoke the privilege. I take you at your word. Perhaps it is a mitigating factor, but to use the word executive privilege is not magical fairy dust that immunizes you from your behavior. You knew the consequences and you didn't learn any lessons at all. The judge went on to sentence Navarro to 4 months. Navarro then filed a notice of appeal. This was not political persecution. The chutzpah you have to say that and then say you accept accountability. I ain't buying it, Judge Mehta said, sentenced. So there you have it, folks. He got the same sentence as Bannon. Look, he should get sentenced for, in my view, more than that. But, you know, there needs to be real consequences for his actions. Disturbing individual there in Peter Navarro and his behavior. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to we hit 2 million subscribers. We're now on our way to 3 million subscribers. Sign up for our newsletter. How about that? MeidasTouch.com/newsletter. Have a great day.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.